He is our Finsider. He is Josh Houtz. You can follow him on Twitter at Houtz, part of the Finsider.com. Josh, I have one word for you, my friend, besides thanks for your time. How the heck are you? And that word is Tua.
I'm doing great, guys. I mean, this is honestly something I look forward to every week. So, as always, thanks for having me. Hope your families are doing well. But, yeah, man, Tua Tagovailoa's first career start, I'm not sure it looked as, the way many of us anticipated, but we still got the win, and I think ultimately that's all that really matters.
In fact, it looked a lot like I thought it was going to look, Josh. This didn't surprise me at all. I thought he was going to be overwhelmed. I thought he was going to look like a deer in headlights. And I made a prediction on Friday that if the Dolphins win, because I said there was no way it was going to happen, I will sing the Dolphins fight song, which I did at 6:45 this morning. First time ever, as a matter of fact. But to your point, this defense has been built in a way, much like the way the Patriots defense was built. They've got great corners, and they come out and they made big plays yesterday on defense. And look at the end of the day, we all know Tua is a work in progress right now. I think you're playing with house money. But is the defense ahead of where even you thought it might have been, Josh?
I love that you said they're playing with house money, because that's kind of the exact same way I view it. And I think the defense has finally started to come together. We saw it last year. It slowly started to turn into what Brian Flores envisioned. Then, like you said, they got those two shutdown corners. That allows those guys up front to do their job. They brought in Agba. They brought in Shaq Lawson. Both made huge plays yesterday. ABG's playing well. It's a complete, it's a total team effort. We saw they score a touchdown in all four phases. First time since 1993. I mean, this was an awesome win. And again, like you said, Tua, work in progress. He'll finally come along. Game did not look too big for him at all. But, I mean, it wasn't statistically what you'd expect. But ultimately, beating the Rams, going 4-3, that's a big win.
See, Josh, I thought until the fourth quarter, I thought the game did look a little too fast for him. It did. Now, I thought in the fourth quarter, he made some nice throws. There was a key drop on a third down. They weren't exorbitant throws. They were simple ones. But, they were able to churn out just enough first downs to kind of run out the clock, et cetera. But I thought for the first three quarters that, Tua looked, quite frankly, like, he didn't really belong playing, if you know what I mean. But, we know what's going on here. I thought the game looked a little too fast for him.
And I do think, to your point, and I think it will all take time to come together. And it did look a little bit like maybe he was out of place. It wasn't the same smooth transition that many Dolphins fans expected. But I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt like that offensive play calling, that might have been some of the worst that we've seen from Chan Gailey since he came back to Miami. It looked like they took away completely, every throw it seemed like he was making was a designed rollout, which essentially took away half the field for him. So it looked like they were babying him along, but again, first game, it wasn't, unexpected to see a rookie quarterback go out and play that way.
And Josh, I think the point that we talked about when this change was made was the progression of the offensive line. And, hey, you're playing against Aaron Donald. There's going to be moments where you're going to get overwhelmed in that game. But it looks like right now, Josh, if you look at the three offensive linemen they drafted in the corner, you could take Tua out of this draft, and this might be the best Miami Dolphins draft in the last decade.
It's crazy to think that, and you're absolutely right. And we know Austin Jackson, hopefully he's healthy and back in this lineup sooner or later. But those offensive linemen, they played pretty darn good football. They gave Tua enough time to make some of those throws. We know Preston Williams, he had two crucial drops. I think Gaskin had one. I believe there's someone else that dropped it. So the receivers weren't necessarily helping Tua out, but you have to give that offensive line a lot of credit. Besides that fumble early on where Tua took that massive hit that I know a lot of Dolphin fans, and I'm sure both of you also kind of, gasped a little bit. Heart thunk. He took that hit, bounced back up, and he didn't take a sack the rest of the game. So hat tip to them. Like you said, this has been a great draft. Hope to see them continue to progress, and you hope to see more of this in the future, because this is how football is won. You build these young players, build these assets, whether it's the draft and free agency, hit on those players, and we're starting to see the fruit of this labor come together.
He's Josh Houtz. He covers the Dolphins for SB Nation, host of the Finsider podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Houtz, Houtz. I know I made this comment to you a couple weeks ago, but Brian Flores and Chris Greer are slowly earning the trust of Dolphin. But to me, Josh, with the way the team responded against the Rams to the quarterback switch, it shows me that Flores has the locker room. Completely, that the way they responded, there were some national media reports that there were some guys that were unhappy with this. I actually saw, in as best I could see the game, I actually thought I saw a resounding effort from the Dolphins, kind of like, okay, it's a new era. It begins today. Let's go.
I think you're right. And I mean, this just feels like a different Dolphin team, and it just feels like a new regime, like you said, in years past. I mean, we've heard the reports. I don't think we truly know exactly what happened to Dave to make this decision. Yes, Brian Flores had some say, but did Steven Ramsey, send it down from above? Was it this? Was it that? No one truly knows. But the way these guys bounce back, I mean, we kept hearing it all week, like you said, the veterans and the Anthony and Matt Hasselbeck, how's the locker room going to respond? These actually a good playoff football team. These good caliber teams do respond after a bye week. And they go out there and they beat a team that, no one really gave them a chance against. So I think you're right. Just to see the way this team kind of rallied behind not only this decision with Tua, but just to go out there and, Eric Rose says all week, all we heard was defense this, defense that from the Rams. What about us? We went out there, they made those plays and, they made the Rams look like maybe the Dolphins would have in years past, and it looked like the things were a little bit a little bit of a Freaky Friday type situation where the Dolphins were out there looking more like the Rams than the Rams before. So, it's awesome to see. Again, I don't know that Dolphins fans have been this excited about a team in, decades.
It's pretty difficult to get on Dolphins players after a win and with Tua having his first game. But the tight end Gesicki there started out hot. He has been missing in action for a while. To me, that's a guy the rest of the season. I want to see some improvement. I want to see him develop something with Tua because you need a solid tight end. All quarterbacks need that security blanket, if you will. And I don't like the direction of where the tight end play has been. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I like speaking. I like what he did early on, but you're absolutely right. You want to see more out of him, and you don't know if it's the scheme, it's just the game plan heading into things. But then you see guys like Adam Shaheen catching touchdown passes last week, and during points, where's Mike Gesicki? He's supposed to see that tight end with that game-changing read that can break down the seam and make these plays. So you're absolutely right. I want to see more out of Mike Gesicki, but you want to see more out of all these wide receivers. I think I saw a stat where these receivers are getting some of the least amount of separation from the defensive backs, and obviously that's going to make the throws harder for Tua. So you got to make those catches. Preston Williams, when given the opportunity, Devontae Parker might be the only receiver the Dolphins can truly rely on. So when you trade deadline's coming up, you never say never with a Brian Flores team. So maybe they leave no stone unturned. We know Antonio Callaway should be coming back if I read that correctly. But we'll see. I think they all need to come together and they need to start making plays. But it's a group effort, and we saw that in the Dolphins defense. You always hear the cliche, defense wins championships. Well, the Dolphins have a pretty darn good defense.
Yeah, and it's come out of nowhere, really. I mean, when you think about it, most of last season they struggled defensively, and now here they are, arguably the best third down defense in the league. And Josh, what is surprising me, and I know they made a couple of off-season moves, but I did not see a pass rush emerging even this year. And a pass rush has emerged. I mean, they're getting after quarterbacks. They're forcing turnovers. And I know a good secondary and good corners helps that. But, Josh, are you as surprised as I am about up front defensively after a year plus of really for 3 years, the Dolphins have just gotten manhandled up front. The Dolphins are the ones now manhandling people at times.
Yeah, and it's really surprising. I think what's best is that those, edge rushers can set the edge as well. Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Agba have been very good against the run. And you see some of these decisions, throughout the offseason. We saw Taco Charlton. We know he led the Dolphins in sacks last season. They got rid of him, at the end of the year. Like it was nothing. I'm sure there was more to that. But they brought in Emmanuel Agba. They brought in Shaq Lawson. We continue to hear how this defensive scheme, once it came together, once that secondary was in place, that would allow those guys up front to get to the quarterback. And I was a little skeptical, especially early on in the year, because it was the same old Dolphins, like you said. Besides Cameron Wake, they just could not generate a pass rush. And as of late, Emmanuel Agba, he's putting that number 91 to good use. Sometimes you might think that's Cam Wake out there going after the quarterback, and then opposite of him, Shaq Lawson. Andrew Van Ginkel's playing awesome. You got to give Christian Wilkins credit for dropping back and making that interception. That was awesome. And again, it's just an overall team effort. And like you said, it's not something that you really expected from the Dolphins at the beginning of the year. And I think it was Jeff Darlington after the game. He said, if you can look at that Dolphins roster, and unless you're a Dolphins fan, you probably can't even name like 2 or 3 players on that Dolphins defense. And, it's okay to be that way when you're going out there and playing the way they are. So I'm definitely surprised. I'm excited because it's all coming together a lot sooner than I think a lot of people expected.
All right, Josh. Now they just caught a 5-2 team at the perfect time, kind of in between division games, shorter week for them. They had to travel 3,000 miles. Well, after beating the Rams, the Dolphins aren't going to sneak up on the 5-2 Arizona Cardinals. And this is a different animal at quarterback, and this could be the best wide receiving core in the league. I mean, at the end of the day, with the Dolphins offense only having 145 yards, the Rams had nearly 500 yards of offense. I mean, do you think the Dolphins are ready for this step up? They're not going to be taken lightly. They got to do the traveling. They're facing a 5-2 team that's rested, ready, and waiting for them.
Normally I'd say no, but I mean, what we've seen this year is just kind of what we've seen since Brian Flores got here. I think both teams will be prepared. I'm 100% with you. I mean, I think the Arizona Cardinals, that team is just scary awesome. I think I put an early season bet down on Kyler Murray winning MVP. I don't know if that will come to fruition, but he's playing out of his mind, and like I say, a completely different monster than Jared Goff. Dolphins will have their handful with Hopkins, Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk. The list goes on and on. It's going to be a huge test, and I don't know if the Dolphins will pull this one out, but I think offensively, especially Tua Time, we can give him a mulligan for this first start, but he's going to have to play better. That offense as a whole is going to have to play better because you're not going to be able to beat 2 teams back to back, like you said. I think they play 92 snaps on defense. You're not going to be able to go out there and make all these plays defensively to win these games. You're going to have to make plays, and it's going to be Tua Time. I think the Dolphins have a chance, but anything can happen.
Josh, as always, we appreciate your time and your insight. All the best with the family. Stay safe, be well. We look forward to talking to you again, maybe around Thanksgiving.
Sounds good. You guys take care, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Josh Houtz. He covers the Dolphins for SB Nation, host of the Phinsider podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Houtz, Houtz. Listen, I'm thrilled. You should have saw me dancing around the press box before the game yesterday. Everybody's like, why are you so happy? I go, guys, all right, we do a radio show in Southwest Florida. The Dolphins are the number 1 team in our area. All right. I've been there 21 years. My co-host has been there 22. They've been good. The first few years we were there, they were pretty good. They've given us 15 years of awful. Are you kidding me? This is great.
It really is. There's no other way to put it. David has been dying for this to happen. I've not been as excited. I would rather have awful than mediocre because there's nothing worse than talking about a 6-10, 7-9 type team. That kind of teases you. That was all the Dolphins really would give us, is the occasional tease and sneak in and get beat. Well, now that's a big boy win on Sunday. I don't care how you do it. You beat a football team that's better than you, flat out, and you whooped them. I don't know if you play them 5 more times if you win any of them. But you got it done, and now Tua played terribly. And you won. Imagine what happens if this guy is even 60% of what we think he could be. And you start getting glimpses of that. Hell, David, next week, Kyler Murray and Tua. Anybody interested in that?
Well, yeah, Mark, the
Right.
Dolphins are now slowly becoming, when CBS is sitting down looking at their games, they're like, hey, instead of us sending the 5th and 6th crew to do the Dolphins games, now you're going to start getting a lot more of Kevin Harlan, the number 3 crew. And all of a sudden, if you start getting Ian Eagle and Charles Davis, you start moving up to the 2 crew. It's like, hey, look at this.